Hi everybody, Karen Roby here with Larry Dignan of ZDNet, and we're talking about Amazon's 2019 hardware event that just wrapped up and some new products and features to talk about here. Larry, you put together some key takeaways for us to kind of dissect all of this, and let's just start here first, I think, with how Amazon is addressing the home integration issues, and then just some of the new improvements to Alexa as well.
Yeah, I'll just touch on some big themes. So Amazon had their hardware event in Seattle. And, halfway through the event, I was thinking, well, maybe this list is more curated than last year. And then they just keep carpet bombing you with Echo devices. So they had a bunch of, semi-weird things, like there's Echo frames, which basically have Alexa built in, but there's no display or anything. They had Echo Loop, which is basically, or maybe it's Amazon Loop, but they had basically a smart ring, which just works with Alexa as a ring. And then they had, a bunch of other devices, but no matter how you go through all the devices, it's really just adding up to putting Alexa everywhere and putting Amazon everywhere, right? So in the smart home, they had a bunch of little things you just plug in, and the idea here is that they're trying to make the integration for the smart home much easier, which is a big thing because anybody who start playing around with smart home stuff just knows there's, devices that don't talk to each other. It's kind of a pain. And it's certainly not simple enough. So Amazon came out with a human certified program, which basically says that you won't need any patience to work with these devices. So basically you just plug them in, they're supposed to work and do their thing. And, that program is kind of interesting because they're doing a lot of things. They talked about a lot of things today about the smart home integration and just making things easier. So they came out with a new network called Amazon Sidewalk, which all it does is take your 900 megahertz spectrum, which is basically running around the house, and it extends your smart home integration. So from there, they can do things like there was Amazon Fetch, which is only a little thing you put on a dog collar, but it helps you find your dog and locate them. So there's a lot of things like that. I don't know if, Amazon, it's 85,000 Alexa enabled devices in the field. I don't know if they will all integrate seamlessly, but the big takeaway here is that, they are trying to create products that'll go in a smart home and be simple enough for the average human to do. We'll see if that's the case. I mean, technology has been trying to do that forever and haven't really seen it play out per se. So that was one key theme that was out there. And then the other one is Alexa got a little smarter. So if you look at, there's a thing neural to text. So with Alexa, there was a mix of things that were kind of cool. Like, for instance, Alexa can do celebrity voices now. Like Samuel Jackson can do his voice with Alexa. That's kind of cool. But the other thing they're doing is Alexa is becoming a little more transparent. So basically, if you ask Alexa, why did you do that? It'll actually give you an explanation now. There's also some privacy features now where you can turn off things. You can delete data, after 3 months to 8 months. So there's more privacy controls that were actually there, but Amazon's been talking about them a little more. That's because, people are worried about these devices listening into things. They're worried about, security with the Ring doorbells and all that kind of stuff. So they addressed that a good bit too. Is, did they say anything today that will allay all privacy fears? No, but, they're addressing it and they're taking it seriously. And then we'll just see if that's enough, right?
Yeah, and I do like the celebrity voices. I will say that. I think that sounds kind of cool. And talk a little bit more about the Echo devices. I know you mentioned going higher end. Some of the things we learned there.
Yeah, so they came out with the Echo Studio, which is a device design. It's basically designed to compete with the HomePod. It's designed to compete with the Google Max, but basically the sound quality is better. It's still a mid-range price point, but it's basically giving you something at the higher end of the spectrum. So that's interesting. And then, they've got a bunch of, little Echoes everywhere. They got the Echo Glow, which is basically a little night light. They have a lot of $25 sort of things. There's one with a clock for like $59. There's a new Echo Show, which, to tie into that theme with privacy, the Echo Show also has a camera screen that you can just pull over. So that allays some concerns too, because then you're worried about being watched. So yeah, the Echoes, I think off the top of my head, I'd probably say they did, 6, 7 of those things. It's a good upgrade cycle, and you know what'll happen. Black Friday will come around, they'll get discounted, and you'll upgrade to a new Echo. I do think the upgrade cycle for the Echo gets a little tricky. I've pretty much skipped a few generations. I don't really see some compelling need to upgrade the house. And I think we're kind of going in uncharted territory with that. Is the Echo Studio, is the new higher end one, is that going to force people to upgrade? Not force people to upgrade, but is that going to entice them to upgrade? Because a lot of times you wind up buying the little cheap Echoes and just putting them places. And maybe that's good enough for Amazon, but it's interesting because they own basically 70% of the smart speaker market. So, through Amazon, we'll find out what the upgrade cycle is for these things. And I think that's part of the approach today, is to give you new devices that you could actually say, okay, I want that and I want to upgrade.
Yeah, and even, one of the things that I know, Larry, they talked about the buds, so getting into the hearable game, as you mentioned. What did we learn about those?
Yeah, so basically the working theory here is that, the earbuds, the hearables, basically they're called, that's going to be as big as like the smartwatches and all that, and they're building more and more controls into that. So Amazon got into that game a little more with the Echobuds, and basically the idea here is that you've got Alexa in your ear. They can track workouts, things like that. The problem with all these things, you still need your smartphone somewhere. But it gets Amazon into the game, right? Because we know the AirPods are big. There are a lot of the whole market for buds it's pretty splintered for the most part. There's obviously Samsung, there's a few, but Apple sort of has most of the share, and I think this is a case where Amazon's looking to get in that game, because it's the end of the day, the buds are just another Alexa touch point. The interesting thing about the buds, though, is that they can do Alexa through the Alexa app on your phone, but they'll also use whatever voice service you have, natively with your phone. So you'll be able to use, Apple Siri, you'll be able to use Google Assistant, and none of that's surprising, because most of the buds do that now. But for a device that's designed for Alexa, where it's going to get tricky is, you're going to tap that button or whatever, and there might be some confusion. Do you want Siri or do you want Alexa? Or do you want Google Assistant or do you want Alexa? And when you're using earbuds, chances are if you're working out, you probably don't want to deal with any of those. So I think there's probably going to be an interface perspective there, or user experience issue there at some point. Just because there's too many voice assistants waiting to help you, and a lot of times you don't necessarily want the help.
Yeah, definitely. It almost gets to be a little bit overwhelming. I can certainly see, where that would happen. Larry, Amazon, of course, is traditionally very secretive about things before events like this. So, was there anything today that kind of surprised you? Do you think that they hit the mark, missed the mark? How do you feel about it overall?
I think it was a lot like last year, where it's about they usually have some solid things where clearly it's for upgrades, and then they have these things where they're just throwing it out there to see what happens. So I think the frames, the smart glasses, which it's not really, they barely have a display, it's really just a frame with a mic in it. I think that's interesting in that it tips, it kind of tips Amazon's hand, like they're interested in that smart glass market a little bit. The smart ring, I think that's kind of interesting. Could be something that, develops over time. I mean, why not? And so I think those things, those kind of surprises are kind of interesting. And they kind of show how Amazon's thinking about. But at the end of the day, the strategy is always the same. The strategy is to put Alexa everywhere and spread those Amazon services, make Alexa smarter, and develop more and more interactions so Alexa can get more and more data.
Yeah, Alexa's everywhere. All right, Larry, we appreciate your insight on this. And for more on the Amazon event and the tech that you need to know about, make sure you stick with ZDNet and Tech Republic. Thanks for watching.